see you guys in the dark.
So, for much needed context, I happen to be a nudist. Most of us nudists travel to resorts or campgrounds in our area where nudity is allowed because it's a private property. These campgrounds are often near the woods or on the outskirts of their respective towns, as nudism isn't exactly accepted. This encounter took place at a campground last July. It sits on about 5 acres of rural land surrounded by hundreds of acres of dense forest and hills. I planned on staying at this campground for 3 nights. It was an M-W, so besides those who lived on the grounds, there weren't many people out. But I happened to like the seclusion. After checking in and dropping my bag off at the cabin, I went over to the pool to swim. After swimming a few laps and enjoying the sunshine, I noticed something. At the top of one of the hills overlooking the campground stood a man looking right at me. Normally that really wouldn't mean much, but he happened to have clothing on. I should probably mention now that this campground isn't a standard nudist campground. About 90% of the nudist campgrounds are clothing optional, meaning we are allowed to wear clothes if we choose, apart for some exceptions like in the pool or shower areas. But this campground was nude only, meaning unless in the case of extreme weather or women menstruating, all clothing is prohibited. And I know this place is a strict enforcer of that, so a clothed person was a bit out of the ordinary. At first, I thought this was probably just a worker, being that they usually wear something while doing maintenance to protect themselves. But this guy was wearing blue jeans and a black hoodie with a hood up. It felt really off, especially being that it was 85 degrees outside. He stood there, frozen like a statue, with his hands in his hoodie pocket. The campground had nature trails that were accessible to the public, but being that it was so far from town and that all the locals knew all the places, having unsuspected visitors like this was virtually non existent. Even though I was creeped out by this guy, I knew I needed to tell the people in the office about him to shoo him away. So I got up, I dried myself off, and made my way to the office. I told the two older ladies working at the office what I had seen. Being that they knew me because I came here often, they took my claim seriously. I brought them to where I saw the man by the pool. Yep, you guessed it. He was gone by the time I got there. I was only gone for about 2 minutes, giving him plenty of time to walk away. And because it was so early in the morning, I really doubt anyone else had seen him. We went to the top of the hill to see if we could spot him, but there was no luck. I figured that because he saw me go to the office, and then I just straight up spotted him, that I probably had scared him off. He was a creep, yes, but I rationalized the whole thing by thinking he was probably just some local who ventured too far down the trail, so I went on with my day. As the day went on, people came and went as normal, and I almost completely forgot about this encounter. That was until the night had fallen. This campground offered cabins for rent for guests, and lucky me had the cabin closest to the trail. It was very cozy and small, no more than 2 or 3 parking spaces of room, and it had paper thin wood as the walls, allowing me to hear even the faintest sounds from outside. My cabin was away from pretty much anyone. My nearest neighbor was a local, we'll call him Sam, who lived in his trailer about 150 feet away from my cabin. I was laying on the bed, reading a book, when I could hear faint crunching of twigs and grass from outside the cabin, almost like footsteps. At first, I thought it was Sam, because he usually would smoke around this time, but something about the frequency of the footsteps made them suspicious, as if they were trying to be as discreet as possible. I got up from my bed and slowly peered through the blinds. It took me a while to see, but I could just make out a figure slowly walking towards Sam's trailer. My heart had sank. Sam was a pale white man, and I've never seen him clothed before, so the fact that I couldn't make out this pale skin through the darkness made me come to terms of who it was. It was the man from the hill. Same black hoodie, and after confirming, the same blue jeans. Whoever this was, he must have picked Sam's trailer for whatever sick plan he was beginning to have in his head. And being that his trailer was the closest on the trail, that probably made sense to him. And then everything had hit me at once. Sam had 2 daughters in that trailer. They lived there during the summer. Sam was the only one with kids that actually lived on the campgrounds. This guy somehow knew that, and had plans to go do God knows what. Who knows how long he's been secretly watching them. I saw him on that hill, and he was only 100 feet from the trailer, probably doing one last dry run before his plan. I knew I had to do something. I grabbed my phone, and I called Sam. Calling the police would have been pointless, being how far we were from the closest station. The phone rang, and he wasn't picking up. I called again and again, occasionally peeking out the blinds again to see the man walking around the trailer. After the fifth time, I saw the man stand on a box and peer into a window. I decided that I needed to do something drastic. I was going out there and handle this myself. I didn't have time to get my clothing on from my bag, so I just threw on my hiking boots, and as soon as I opened up my cabin door, I hear a high-pitched, "Ah!" I snapped my head in the direction of the trailer, and I see all the lights flick on, revealing the man climbing out of the window from the trailer, and he starts running down the trail. Without even thinking, I chased after him. I could hear Sam yell, "What happened?" as one of his daughters explained the situation. Sam then takes off as well, seeing me in pursuit. I could just barely make out the man's blue jeans, but he was much faster than Sam and I. The dude had gotten away. I stopped to catch my breath with Sam catching up to me, doing the same thing. I told him what I saw, and we made our way back to the trailer to regroup. By then, a few other residents were out of their trailers, and with his daughter being told what happened. A few of the other men went into the trail to see if they could find anything, while I called the police. It took about 30 minutes for the police to get here. We told them what happened, and soon some officers went into the woods to go look. We never found out who the man was, and since then, Sam and his daughter sold their trailer and moved out just weeks later. I haven't been back to that campground since, and from what I hear, the residents have moved on from all of this. They put up a fence line through the whole property as well as a volunteer security guard who patrols the premises. So I'm a 28-year-old woman, and this happened when I was 13. I'm an adult now, and I'm still traumatized by this. At 13, I transferred schools because of the lack of money. This school that I went to was a much cheaper private school because where I lived, the public schools kind of sucked. I didn't have any friends for at least the first couple of months. I started noticing this boy, Victor. He was always staring at me during classes, especially in the hallways by the window, and at lunch. It was an everyday thing. But I really didn't care, because as a kid I only thought of stupid stuff like dolls or whatever. I was flat as a table back then, so totally looked like a small child. The girls in my class started saying that Victor had a crush on me, which creeped me the hell out because he was 18. I was creeped out, but still didn't care, as long as he didn't approach me or anything like that. Things started to escalate really quickly. Victor would follow me home every single day. Thank goodness I moved since then, and he doesn't know where I live now. The most annoying thing, however, was that he constantly asked my friends to talk to me and try to convince me to go out with him and make out with him after school. These talks would usually last about 30 minutes of them trying so hard to convince me to agree with this, while Victor was behind them watching the conversation like a freak. Obviously, I rejected him all the time. And being the nice guy that he said he was, he spread rumors about us making out anyways. Nobody believed it because he was such a weird guy, and the whole school knew it. The final straw was when our school had a trip to a book fair. I was really excited. At this point, I had made a couple of friends. On our way to this fair, I was on the bus with my friend, and Victor was on the three seats behind us. And I could feel his eyes on me the whole way. Out of nowhere, he came and asked for my friend's cell phone. She gave it to him. So stupid of her. He returned her cell phone not even 2 minutes later. She checked the cell phone and showed me he had taken a bunch of photos of me. I guess this was his way of saying that he had already done this at some point. She got so pissed off, went to go talk to him. When she returned, she said the creepiest thing that I've heard in my life. She told me this with a very scared face. He said to me that when you least expect it, he will push you into a bathroom and rape you. Today. The only thing that went through my mind was, what should I do now? I looked at him. He gave me a creepy smile. After this, I spent the whole day looking behind my back, not leaving the side of my teacher. She didn't even understand why I didn't want to walk around at the fair. I was in alert mode all day, and thank God nothing had happened. When I came home, I cried in my room like a baby. This was at the end of the year, and thankfully I had switched schools once again. I told this to my mom last year, and she was like, "Yeah, it happened. It happened to me when I was your age, too." I was so shocked to hear that this was such a common thing. I'm now 28. I still see Victor on the streets. He has followed me around a few times. I always walk in circles until I lose him, but sometimes he waits for me outside the stores or restaurants that I go in. I think about what could have happened to me in the book fair if I haven't had my teacher next to me the whole time, and I wondered if one day he'll do something or just keep this creepy behavior going. This story takes place when I was 12 years old. My parents had divorced when I was 7 years old, and I always hated my father. He was violent in multiple ways. I lived with my mother and my sister. I was no longer speaking to my father at this time. Every evening, my mom would come to school to pick us up and take us back home. This evening after school, we went shopping and therefore got home late. When my mother had parked in front of our house, I saw a white pickup truck that I didn't recognize. I turned my head towards the car window and I saw my father. He smiled at me with a terrible face. I was petrified and said to my mom, "He is here." She started up the car and drove away until we saw the police station. My father had gotten away when he saw the police station. When we arrived, the policeman tells us, "We can't help you after 7 p.m." I was choked at this reaction. We returned to home with fear, and I cried a lot after that. My father waited for us for some reason. That's very creepy. I never knew why, even though I saw him again in better conditions. Today, I hide from him. I hate him, and I really don't talk to him. In the past, he did other, much more serious things, but only this story is something that I want to tell.
If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell for notifications on future videos and become a stalker of the night. And I'll see you next time.